In recent times, we have been witnessing an increasing activism among Northeasterners who seem to feel a sense of discrimination, both conscious and unconscious, in the rest of India. This feeling of a sense of discrimination has added to the feeling of alienation that has persisted among them for ages. In this report, we take a look at the reasons behind this increasing sense of alienation. What is the cause of this emotional disconnect? And are the outpourings, the reactions, a process of slow and steady transformation towards a more inclusive society? Alienation is a sociological concept defined as a condition in social relationships reflected by a low degree of integration or common values and a high degree of distance or isolation between individuals and a group of people in a community or work environment. The concerns of alienation by people of the Northeast are not cries in the dark or even out of the blue. They are the result of several factors. Assertions of subnationalism, tribal, non-tribal, hills, plains, periphery and mainstream.
People are asserting their rights. Like these incidents which have taken place in Delhi and other places, people are not being pushed around, lying down. They're saying, it is our right to be here. You cannot deny me my right just because I look in a particular way or I dress in a particular way or eat something. I have a right as an Indian to be here as much as you do. And this challenging of discrimination, this challenge to others, is what I think is partly causing a converse reaction of people being surprised and by this assertion.
You'll find Gujaratis in India, Assamese in India, Manipuris in India, Punjabi, but you'll never find an Indian in India. Singing Sare Jahan Se Acha or waving the national flag is not the only route towards nationalism. The idea of India still has to be embedded in our hearts, souls and in the mind. And that has to be done in a very, very creative way, and that hasn't happened. You can't have Shabana Azmi and all the different and getting a dance from Manipur or getting a dance from Kerala and saying mix it, do a 10-minute film and then you can national integration. Just look at our national textbooks. I've done 5 years of history. I have said this in public platform. I was shocked after 5 years of learning history when I realized, oh my God, there's not a single chapter on 45 million citizens of the Northeast here. So the problems are deeper. The policymakers have failed to look beyond Assam. In fact, even if you look at our national anthem, they've forgotten the Northeast actually. It goes till Bengal and it stops. Not even Assam is included.
Well, there is this conscious stereotyping and unconscious stereotyping that you find everywhere. For example, we were invited some few years back. We were invited by the Chief Minister of Delhi for consultation on such issues, racial issues. And I think most of us were professionals, but the Chief Minister would still address us as students. That kind of stereotyping that this is there. And so that is unconscious rather, and there is this conscious effort on the part of some people in Delhi who would vent their anger and who would indulge sadistic pleasure by in fact teasing, by doing every sort of thing. That both ways we have encountered that. It's not just on the road, even within the institution. It is just a question of the degree of discrimination or stereotyping.
The history of the Northeast culturally and politically is not easily linked with the history of mainland India, which easily evolved a pan-Indian identity. With the exception of the Meiteis and the Assamese, the Northeast does not draw on the Hindu influence of society. Hence, historically, it was not easy to integrate into a pan-Indian Hindu ethos, though the now secular diverse Indian identity has place for a much more varied cultural mix.
And it's important that the story of India is played out in a calm, democratic, open manner in areas of diversity where people disagree without being disagreeable.
When a young child, when they grow up from class 1 to class 10, they don't know Northeast just as a place where the rainiest rainfall is, Mohsin Ram or Cherrapunji for that matter. But they should also know that the woman who fought the longest in the Indian freedom movement is a woman from Manipur. Rani Gaidinlu, a Jalong Naga woman, was detained for 15 years. Pandit Nehru came to Shillong to take her out. But no one knows this. But we from Northeast know who's Rani Ki Jhansi. We know about the Rashtrakutas, the Cholas. So they also have to know our rich history and tradition, number one. Knowledge is the ignorance that people still confuse Manipur with Manipal University. It's like this, you know. They think that the Bhut Jaloka is not a chili, but it's a Bhut Bangla. Okay, so it's a really wrong perception.
Mainland India was culturally and politically unified by a common past even before the coming of the British, and the freedom struggle was a further unifying force. This was not the case with the Northeast, which remained a peripheral grouping, even under British colonization. Even at the time of the transfer of power in 1947, the British debated the separation of the eastern tribal zones into a single political unit. Robert Reid, then governor of Assam, had advocated the formation of a new colony, divorced from Burma and the control of India. However, since the region was a financially deficit area, support from the central government was necessary. The situation pretty much remains the same today, with dependence on central funds and concerns of insufficient or insignificant representation. The feeling of the lack of ownership and lack of participation in the highest decision-making body cannot but alienate the people.
I do not think Northeasterners have settled here and there all over India. I think it is because of this very factor, alienation or discrimination. They don't prepare, or the statistic will show that how many Northeasterners people have settled all over India, in which part, where. I don't think they have settled in Andhra Pradesh or in Odisha, or let us say in UP, or let us say in this Rajasthan. So these are some certain kind of indication that they feel insecure and alienation.
You see, the Northeastern people love for their state or for their home, I think it's just not comparable with any other communities. However, you know, they're living. It's a kind of forced living, in a sense that for a better opportunity, for a better life. That has in fact spawned this problem, that with the increasing number of these people coming here, yes, especially in places like Delhi or Mumbai, in fact, the locals, the so-called the locals who are, well, I should say, a little more illiterate, felt threatened consciously or unconsciously by this new group of people who have arrived in this place.
The idea of India was challenged first there, resistance to this, and slowly what you see increasingly today is more and more people, just by the fact that they're voting with their feet or moving out, and accepting the space in a larger country, they're accepting the idea of India, whereas an earlier generation in many ways resisted that.
The region has a rich history. The Meiteis and the Assamese are culturally linked to the Shans of Myanmar and the Thais of Thailand. The Nagas have links to Myanmar and central China. Historians also say the Khmers of Cambodia migrated from the Khasi Hills in northeast India. Linguistically, all ethnic groups in the northeast speak languages that have common origins from Tibeto-Chinese, Tibeto-Burmese and Siamese subfamilies.
Perhaps the earliest and strongest influences of Myanmar were those of India. And of course then we had a continuing linkage during the period of the British rule, when Myanmar was for most of its period under British rule governed from India. as also the struggle for independence, so that when both nations came onto their own in the 1947 and 1948, we had a very common platform in the way that we looked at India and a very common cultural background.
While the region was part of British India, the colonial masters prevented linkages with the mainstream. As a result, the nationalism of the freedom struggle did not spread evenly and had hardly crossed the Brahmaputra Valley. Economically too, the Northeast was not easily integrated into the business hubs of India. Infrastructure development under British rule concentrated on port cities of Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, resulting in unequal development. Smaller nationalities which kept asserting themselves in the Northeast like the Boro, the Borok, Garo, Gurkha, Khasi, Manipuri, Mizo and Naga only slowly integrated with India. The sense of alienation continues whether real or imaginary. Deep down, unless the racism goes, the Northeast would continue to feel alienated.
It changes over time. It doesn't go away because it's in the DNA of some communities perhaps to be regressive and aggressive or violent towards change. And I think that change is a very slow process. We need to bring in some of these. It's not just the economy which is going to make changes, it's also the implementation of law. You can have very good laws against discrimination, racial or otherwise, but unless they're implemented, and for that you need to change policing at a very basic level, fundamental level.
What do you define an Indian face? You know, we are told that Indian magazines will not print a Northeast face because it will not sell. Break that stereotype. Even business houses privately owned, we have instructed the government of India through the committee to give them an ultimatum saying they should at least, like, you know, corporate social responsibility, 2% of their funds on this to make it done, you know. So in every level, in terms of media communication, Hindi film heroine is also typically from South India. The hero has to be from Punjabi. The villain is either from Thing, and Northeast people either Biharis, are Bahadurs, or like Deni Jongjongpa, a villain. Okay.
See, the question of insider, outsider, it's everywhere. Okay, and if you look at the history of India, the idea of the fear of this Chinese-looking face started long time back when during the time of Genghis Khan. You know, if you look at Jaswant Singh's book, he has vividly described that fear. So that fear has been, in fact, turned into violence. You know, for the insiders, for the local people. But you know, to stop all this, I think it's important on the part of the people in the system, the police, the bureaucrats, the legislators, to in fact seriously start taking action against the perpetrators. You see, we have the laws. There's talk of implementing a anti-racial discrimination law. But I tell you, the law is there. It's already there. It's just that the police have to be serious with the problems faced by the people from the Northeast, or for that matter, even the lawmakers. They have to be serious and they have to look beyond the issue of, you know, vote banks.
Yeah, it is where the protester they claim that police are inactive and police don't take proper action against the culprit. This is their allegation.